Dear Mr. Tal, it's a very pleasure to have with you today. I want to thank you, Jese, for the connection. I'm a Jese alumni, and it's a very honor to have you today in this meeting in Italy. So welcome.
Thank you very much, Daniel. It's good to be here. Good to be with ESA again.
Thank you so much. So if I want to start with some things that I saw in the last meeting in Yes in Barcelona in one of your fantastic speech in this community, and in particular I want to remember one sentence that you said and very strong is that let's give us ourselves permission to be human. This sentence is very powerful in my understanding and is connected with emotion that when we reduce our emotion, we gave to others our worst idea. So during these days in which there are a lot of people suffering in a situation of difficulty, how you can suggest the business community that has a large responsibilities of people, how do you suggest them to consider this possibility to be human? Which is your advice?
Yeah, during these times, emotions are extreme. So there is extreme anxiety, whether it's anxiety over the future of our business or anxiety over our own or our loved ones' physical health. Anxiety is very high. At the same time, also other emotions are high, such as frustration, uncertainty, and so on. And the best way to deal with these emotions, paradoxically, is not to reject them, not to say something like, I'm a manager, I shouldn't be anxious, because what happens then is that these emotions only intensify, they grow stronger. The best way to deal with painful emotions is first and foremost to allow ourselves to experience them, to give ourselves the permission to be human, because when we do so, these emotions actually just flow through us and they go away just as they came. And it is then that we can make our most sound, logical, rational decisions. So whether it's about making rational decisions or about happiness, the key is to first and foremost welcome, embrace unhappiness, give ourselves the permission to experience the full range of human emotions as a first step.
Okay, thank you very much. Very good. A second concept that I'm considering during this day is a sentence from Anne Frank that says, you can always give some things, even if it is only kindness. And so my thinking was during this emergency, we are seeing a lot of example of generosity and even of solidarity. What do you think this aspect of generosity and solidarity have in companies? How can they cooperate? And how it's important to have this kind of approach even in business?
Yeah, if you think about it, what is capitalism based on? So when you ask people that, most people would say competition. And yes, that's right, there is competition in capitalism. However, there is even much more cooperation. How many people need to cooperate so that we can now appear on this platform? How many people need to cooperate in order to make this shirt? People from all over the world. So business is first and foremost, before anything else, about cooperation. It is especially important to cooperate during difficult times. Why? Because when we cooperate, what we're doing is we're raising everyone up. And that is what we need to do. We need to be supportive of one another. We need to work together. When we do so, it's literally a win-win. We as individuals win. We as a group, as an organization, we as an ecosystem win. Cooperation, giving, generosity are also the foundation of happiness. One of the best ways to increase our own levels of well-being is by turning to others and increasing theirs. It's a two-way street. When we help others, we help ourselves. When we help ourselves, we're helping others.
Oh, fantastic. This is a very good message for the community and for the ecosystem approach. Another question that I'd like to ask to you is about the concept that usually success brings happiness. But we think that even the opposite, it is always true, that happiness brings to success. But the question will be how? happiness will bring success?
Yeah, there is a common misconception which is prevalent among parents, educators, as well as, of course, the business community, that the path to happiness has to go through success. In other words, if I do well, if I get a raise or a promotion or an IPO or whatever it is, then I will be happy. That's unfortunately not the case. Yes, success will lead to temporary happiness, but just a slight spike in our well-being. So does that mean that there is no relationship between success and happiness? No, it doesn't. Only the relationship works in the opposite direction, meaning it's not that success leads to happiness, rather that happiness leads to success. How? If we increase levels of well-being even by a little bit, I'm talking 3%, 4%, what we do is we're able to think better outside the box. In other words, we become more creative, more innovative, which is, of course, arguably the most important thing we can do in a business, certainly during challenging times. So increase well-being, you also increase creativity, productivity, and motivation go up significantly when we increase levels of well-being. We become more engaged, more focused when we increase levels of happiness. Moreover, teamwork, relationships improve. And by the way, relationships at home and relationships in the workplace. Additionally, we also find that physical health, physical resilience, as well as psychological resilience improves when we increase levels of happiness. Wherever you look, you find that increased well-being leads to better performance, better outcome in the workplace, at home, personally, as well as professionally. In other words, the bottom line is that happiness pays. It's a good investment. It's a good investment for the individual, for the team, for the organization. It's a good investment for society.
Very, very good, amazing. And so this concept of well-being is even very well connected to our behavior during the day, how we sleep, how we have the relationship with food, with the exercise, and with all other even spiritual, let me say, practice, like mindfulness, compassion, and other things. I read that you are bringing a project on this kind of concept. Do you have any advice for individuals to bring this practice in their daily life? What do you think about this?
Sure. So, this is what I'm dedicating my life to through the Happiness Studies Academy. And what we do is we draw on scientific evidence to show how people can increase their levels of well-being. So, for example, we know that regular physical exercise, as little as 30 minutes 3 times a week, has the same effect on our psychological well-being as our most powerful psychiatric medication. In fact, it works in the same way. It releases norepinephrine, serotonin, and dopamine. These are your feel-good chemicals in the brain. So people who exercise regularly can focus better, are more creative, more productive, all the benefits that I spoke about related to happiness. Organizations that encourage their employees to be physically active, and that also means to move around on a regular basis. They're actually more likely to be innovative. They're more likely to be effective. They're more likely to be resilient in difficult times. Why? Because physical toughness is related to mental toughness. In addition, meditation, being mindful, and that could be meditating for 5 minutes a day, or doing yoga 3 times a week, whatever, or listening to music, or praying, which is also a form of mindfulness, which is present moment awareness. Any of these mindfulness practices can significantly contribute to the success and happiness of individuals and organizations. In addition, in organizations, what's very important for both well-being and success is making mistakes, or being open to mistakes. So Amy Edmondson, who's a professor at Harvard Business School, talks about the importance of psychological safety. Creating psychological safety in a society, in an organization, in a team, in a home, is the foundation of innovation and creativity. It's also the foundation of collaboration. Because if we're afraid of making mistakes, then we are afraid of trying. If we're afraid of trying, we're less likely to cooperate and put ourselves on the line. And finally, another thing that can really help us increase levels of well-being and success is expressing gratitude, not taking for granted our even small successes. So there's research, for example, by Teresa Amabile, again, Harvard Business School, showing that individuals who focus on progress that they made, in other words, appreciating something that they did in their organization, they end up not just happier, they end up more creative and more productive. So appreciating, not taking for granted progress that we made, being grateful for what we have, even in difficult times, that can lead to both higher levels of well-being and better performance.
So this is very interesting because if we consider the framework in which most of the companies are working, there is this approach of command and control. And in the command and control style, you gave orders, and there is a sensation of, let me say, of fear. And when there is a fear, our ability to create, to innovate is not enabled. Instead, if there is a sensation of solidarity or of safety, we can, let me say, afford mistakes. And so this is a very important concept for the community, because it means that nowadays, even with the crisis, there is fear, emotional fear. We can manage our emotion, but what we can do is to reinforce our ability to innovate, to be creative, and this is even connected with trust. So my question is, will be how trust that is connected with physical meetings, how we can rebuild trust in a world that is becoming, let me say, more digital with tools like this one. How do you think we can bring trust even in the digital world?
Yeah, that's a very good question and a very important question. It's important always. It's certainly important during challenging times, because ultimately, if you think about it, if you want people to be with you, even when you're not close to them, the most important element is to build trust. How do we build trust? You talked about the command and control approach to leadership. Well, today, my business partner from Potential Life, Angus Ridgway, and I have done a lot of research on the kind of management and leadership that is required today. And instead of command of control, instead of power and influence, what we need today is positivity and authenticity. These are the two elements that are most necessary, essential for management today. Now, how do you create positivity and authenticity? Well, there are many ways. One of them is to create psychological safety. The other is by listening. It's by being there. It's not by telling, it's by listening, by opening up. Because when a person is listened to, whether or not we ultimately do what they recommend, when they're listened to, they feel validated, they feel worthy, they feel trusted, and as a result of it, trusting. You see, when I feel that I'm trusted, I'm much more likely to reciprocate and give trust back. And the way we demonstrate as managers, as leaders, that we trust the other is that we spend time listening, really listening to what they have to say. So today, listening, I would argue, is the foundation of creating this trust. And yes, ideally, we want to listen when we're face to face. However, even when we are on social media, online, we can still listen, be there for the other, validate, express trust. And then we get validation and trust right back.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much. If I have just the last one, it will be a final consideration about our community of ecosystem. So my question will be, what do you think about happiness? How happiness will have a future in this situation, this dramatic situation of crisis, and how happiness will reinforce the collaboration in ecosystem, not only in individuals and in companies, but in a group of people?
You see, when we experience painful emotions, what we tend to do is narrow and constrict. In other words, just think about that problem, that trouble that we're facing. In contrast, when we increase levels of happiness, in the words of Barbara Fredrickson from University of North Carolina, we broaden and build.
Right.
So we either narrow and constrict with painful emotions, we broaden and build when we increase happiness. This is the kind of thinking, this is the kind of seeing that we need today. We need to look outside the box. We need to look beyond the self. We need to look beyond our organization towards collaboration. We even need to look beyond our nation, because what we realize now more than ever is how interconnected we all are. And in order to have this systemic rather than symptomatic perspective, nothing is more important than increasing our levels of well-being, because this is exactly the kind of thinking that comes from increasing levels of happiness. So today, it's no longer a privilege and nice to have. Today, it is a necessity to focus on, as a society, as organizations, as individuals, to focus on happiness.
Wow, fantastic. I'm very happy. So we want to thank you for all the words that we are listening. It's an honor, it's a pleasure, and we hope to be connected and to give you some feedback about our project.
Thank you, Daniela, and thank you, Esa, for inviting me.
Thank you so much.